I never imagined I'd be spending my Monday afternoon stuck in a courtroom, but here I was, staring at the dull gray walls of the downtown legal center like they had personally wronged me. Divorce isn't exactly a walk in the park, but with an ex like Vanessa, it was trench warfare. She had turned what should have been a simple process into a drawn-out battle, throwing every cheap tactic my way: delays, nonsense filings, even dramatic breakdowns in front of the judge. If she had put half as much effort into our marriage as she did into this circus, we wouldn't be here. But Vanessa thrived on chaos, and I was just the latest casualty. Today was special. She waltzed into the courtroom with one hand cradling her stomach, like she was starring in some low-budget soap opera. I nearly laughed. Not because I thought there was even a chance the kid was mine, I knew it wasn't, but because I could practically see the scam forming in real time. This was her final act, the Hail Mary play she thought would win her the game. Show up pregnant, cry about being abandoned, and hope the judge would ignore the prenup and shake me down for every dime I had. I could already hear the speech forming in her head. Your Honor, I'm alone, carrying his child, left with nothing. Cue the fake sniffles, the trembling hands, the perfectly timed glance in my direction to see if I crack. But Vanessa had underestimated me. Again, I wasn't about to fold. I had been ready for this exact stunt. Vanessa wasn't just a liar. She was a bad liar. Predictable, sloppy, and way too sure of herself. And what she didn't realize was that the one question the judge was about to ask her was going to shatter her little charade into a million pieces. Vanessa took her seat, carefully adjusting her posture to look as pitiful as possible. Her lawyer, some fresh out of law school rookie who probably thought this was his big break, sat beside her, shuffling papers nervously. I had been through 3 of Vanessa's previous attorneys already, and I almost felt bad for this one. Almost. The poor guy didn't know he was offending a lost cause. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a sharp gaze, took her seat and wasted no time. "Let's proceed," she said, her tone flat, unimpressed. Vanessa's lawyer launched into his monologue immediately, spinning some melodramatic tale about how she had been left in an impossible situation: pregnant, unemployed, abandoned. Vanessa even sniffled at the perfect moment, dabbing an imaginary tear from the corner of her eye. It was all so staged, so predictable, I almost rolled my eyes. Damien, my lawyer, waited patiently, letting the theatrics play out before he made his move. He was the kind of guy who smiled in court, but could gut you with the law without blinking. When Vanessa's lawyer finally wrapped up his act, Damien stood, adjusting his tie with the kind of casual confidence that said, "I've already won this." "Your Honor," he began smoothly, "while we sympathize with Ms. Reynolds' situation, we must clarify a few key facts before proceeding. First and foremost, who is the father of this child?" Just like that, Vanessa visibly stiffened. She hadn't expected the question, which meant she had assumed the court wouldn't ask, that she could waltz in here, wave around her pregnancy, and cash out. But legally, her pregnancy only mattered if I was a father. Her lawyer hesitated. "My client believes it is Mr. Bennett's." Believes. That was all I needed to hear. I smirked. Damien didn't even flinch. Believes? So there is no proof. Damien asked, voice calm, almost amused. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. The judge's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Reynolds, have you had a paternity test done?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. She was cornered. I just assumed." "You assumed?" The judge repeated, unimpressed. "Ms. Reynolds, is there any actual evidence to suggest that Mr. Bennett is a father?" Her lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Vanessa looked pale. Damien flipped open a folder and pulled out a stack of documents. "Your Honor, we have subpoenaed Ms. Reynolds' medical records. Her first confirmed pregnancy test was months after she and my client separated. In addition, we have photographic evidence of Ms. Reynolds vacationing with another man during that time. We respectfully request that the court recognize that there is no basis for financial support." The judge flipped through the documents, her frown deepening. Then she let out a long sigh and shook her head. "Ms. Reynolds, this court does not take kindly to deception. Given the evidence, there is no basis for financial support. The prenuptial agreement remains in effect. You will not be receiving alimony or additional compensation." Boom. Vanessa gasped as if she had been physically struck. "But, Your Honor," the judge held up a hand. "This hearing is over." Vanessa sat frozen, her scheme crumbling around her. I could see it happening in real time, her brain scrambling for a way out. This wasn't how the day was supposed to go for her, in her version of events. She was supposed to cry, look pitiful, and leave with a fat monthly check. Instead, she had been publicly exposed. Her lawyer wasn't even looking at her anymore. He was staring at the floor, probably reevaluating every decision that led him to this moment. And Vanessa? She was gripping the edge of the table, like she could somehow hold on to the last shreds of her plan. The tantrum was coming. I just leaned back in my chair and waited. Vanessa sat frozen, gripping the edge of the table like she could somehow hold on to the last shreds of her failed scheme. The judge's words still hung in the air, final and absolute. This hearing is over. Her lawyer looked at her like she had personally sunk his career, but I didn't feel even a shred of sympathy. She had played stupid games. Now, she was winning stupid prizes. As the judge left the courtroom, I stood up, buttoning my suit jacket, feeling lighter than I had in months. Damien gave me a small nod of approval, and that was all I needed. It was done. Vanessa had tried to scam the court, and she had failed. Publicly, embarrassingly, and definitively. There was no coming back from this. But Vanessa wasn't done yet. I heard her before I saw her, the sharp click of her heels echoing down the hallway as she stormed after me. "You're a monster," she hissed, catching up to me with wild eyes and a trembling voice. "You let me sit there and be humiliated." I turned slowly, looking her up and down, completely unfazed. "I'm sorry, Vanessa. Was it the part where you tried to commit fraud that humiliated you? Or the part where you realized I was 3 steps ahead?" Her jaw clenched. "You set me up." I let out a short laugh. "No, sweetheart. You set yourself up. I just let you walk into it." She looked like she wanted to claw my face off. But before she could try anything, a stern voice cut through the tension. "Ms. Reynolds." A court officer stepped up beside her, arms crossed. "Come with us, please." Vanessa's head snapped around. "What? Why?" "The judge has recommended an inquiry into potential perjury and fraud. You'll need to answer some questions." Her face drained of color. "Wait, no." But the officers were already leading her back toward the courtroom. I let out a slow breath, watching her disappear through the doors. Damien clapped a hand on my shoulder. Well, that was satisfying. I smirked. Yeah, it was. Over the next few months, I heard bits and pieces about what happened to Vanessa. Turns out, the judge hadn't just been irritated. He had been furious. The court didn't just dismiss her plea for financial support. They flagged her case for potential fraud. She was hit with fines for wasting the court's time. Her lawyer dropped her immediately. Her attempt to file for government aid? Denied. Turns out they also require proof of paternity. And the cherry on top? Her new boyfriend dumped her. Apparently, after Damien pulled out those vacation photos in court, he started doing the math. Turns out, he wasn't so sure he was a father either. A few months after the trial, I got a text from an unknown number. "Vanessa, I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a second, then typed back. "Me, I am. Thanks for asking." Then I blocked the number. For the first time in a long time, I was free. For the first time in months, my life felt normal, peaceful. Vanessa had finally been buried under the weight of her own lies, and I was free from the constant legal battles and manufactured drama. But if there was one thing I should have learned by now, it was that Vanessa never knew when to quit. The first sign of trouble came when I got a call from my bank. "Mr. Bennett, we need to verify some unusual activity on your account." I frowned. "What kind of activity?" "A series of attempted withdrawals and account changes, including a request to add an authorized user." I exhaled slowly. "Let me guess, Vanessa Reynolds?" A pause. "She did provide identification under that name, yes." I chuckled humorlessly. "Lock it down. Freeze any changes and send me a list of every attempt she made." She had already lost in court, but now she was trying to find another way to squeeze money out of me. This time, by attempting to access my accounts. Unfortunately for her, I was always one step ahead. A week later, another call came, this time from Damien. "You're not going to believe this," he said, amusement in his voice. "Try me?" "Vanessa is trying to appeal the ruling. Claims she was coerced into signing the prenup, and that new evidence proves you were financially abusive." I actually laughed. "Financially abusive? She spent more on handbags than I did on my mortgage. I know, but she's desperate. She found some bottom-feeder lawyer to take the case on contingency. They won't win. Of course not. No judge is going to entertain this after what happened last time. But it's a nuisance. That's all she has left, being a nuisance. And she certainly tried. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa threw every pathetic stunt she could think of at me. She filed a complaint at my workplace, claiming I had harassed her. Dismissed immediately. She started spreading rumors that I had cheated on her, hoping to turn mutual friends against me. That didn't work either. Most people had already cut ties with her. She even went so far as to make an anonymous report to the IRS, trying to get me investigated for tax fraud. The problem? I had been meticulous with my finances for years. They took one look at my records and laughed her out of the system. Then she made her biggest mistake yet. One evening, I was having dinner with my mother when my phone buzzed with a new email from Vanessa. I almost ignored it, assuming it was another long-winded rant. But when I opened it, my blood ran cold. Attached was a document, a forged loan agreement, claiming that I had promised Vanessa a six-figure sum to support her transition after the divorce. The message was simple: pay me or I take this to court. I stared at the screen for a long moment before forwarding the email to Damien. The next morning, we sat in his office, reviewing the forged document. She's actually lost her mind, I muttered, shaking my head. Damien smirked. She's desperate and sloppy. This is textbook fraud. What are our options? We could ignore it, but she might still try to file a case. Or we could file a counterclaim for attempted extortion and document forgery. I didn't even hesitate. File it. Vanessa wanted war. She was about to get one. By the time she realized what was happening, it was too late. She had assumed I would be too afraid of legal trouble to call her bluff. Instead, I turned her scam into her downfall. When we filed the case, Damien made sure to include everything: the fraudulent loan document, the email where she tried to blackmail me, a record of all her failed attempts to get money out of me, bank fraud, workplace complaints, IRS reports. We painted the full picture. Vanessa wasn't a struggling single mother. She was a manipulative fraud who had spent months trying to scam me through the legal system. And this time, the court didn't just dismiss her case. They charged her. Forgery, extortion, attempted fraud. The same judge who had ruled against her before made it clear. She was done. Her case was thrown out so fast, it made headlines. And as an extra slap in the face, she was ordered to pay my legal fees. Vanessa had thought she could outplay me. Instead, she had played herself. And now, she was completely, utterly broke. Her downfall didn't end there. The fraud case triggered an investigation into her financial activities. It wasn't long before the authorities uncovered even more dirt. She had maxed out credit cards. She had no way of paying back. She had taken out loans using falsified employment records. She had even written bad checks to landlords, promising payments that never came. And, as if karma had personally come knocking, her new boyfriend, the one she had flaunted in court, bailed on her. Apparently, after Damien pulled out those vacation photos, the guy started doing some math of his own. When he realized Vanessa had been lying to him just as much as she had lied to me, he packed his bags and left. With no money, no support, and a rapidly sinking reputation, Vanessa did what she always did when backed into a corner. She played the victim. She took to social media, painting herself as a helpless, struggling single mother abandoned by the evil, heartless ex-husband who had ruined her life. But the internet wasn't buying it. Screenshots from the court cases spread like wildfire. People dug up her past scams, her fraud accusations, the legal documents that showed exactly what kind of person she was. The same people who had once believed her sob stories were now turning against her. Even the few friends she had left started distancing themselves, unwilling to be associated with someone who had been publicly exposed as a con artist. A month after a fraud case was thrown out, I got another text from an unknown number. "Vanessa, you ruined my life." I stared at it for a second, then typed back, "Me? No, Vanessa. You did that all on your own." Then, just like before, I blocked the number. This time, I knew she wasn't coming back. I thought Vanessa had finally run out of moves. She had tried everything: manipulation, fraud, false accusations, and failed spectacularly at each attempt. But Vanessa wasn't the type to fade away quietly. No, she had one last desperate scheme, and this time she was willing to destroy herself to try and take me down with her. It started with a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and when I checked the peephole, I saw 2 uniformed officers standing outside. My stomach tightened. I had a feeling I knew exactly what this was about. I opened the door, keeping my expression neutral. "Mr. Bennett?" "That's me." One of the officers gave me a tight-lipped nod. "We need to speak with you regarding allegations of harassment and intimidation. A formal complaint has been filed against you by Vanessa Reynolds." I didn't react. I just let out a slow breath and gestured toward the officers. "Come in." They stepped inside, professional but wary. I knew how this game worked. Vanessa had accused me of harassment, likely claiming I had been stalking her, threatening her, or trying to ruin her life. It was nonsense, of course, but it was also dangerous. A well-placed accusation could destroy a man's reputation, even without proof. I sat down across from them and let them ask their questions. "Mr. Bennett, have you had any contact with Ms. Reynolds since the court ruling?" "No, unless you count blocking her number and ignoring her emails. She claims you've been making anonymous threats, sending people to harass her, and using social media to spread false information about her." I couldn't help but chuckle. "You mean the same social media where she's been ranting about how I ruin her life? The same social media where she's been painting herself as a victim while conveniently ignoring the fact that she's been caught committing fraud?" The officers exchanged a look. They weren't stupid. They'd seen this kind of thing before. "Would you be willing to provide evidence of that?" I stood up, grabbed my laptop, and pulled up everything: screenshots, court documents, records of her false accusations. I had spent months making sure I was legally untouchable, and it was about to pay off. One of the officers glanced through the evidence and sighed. "It's clear that Ms. Reynolds has been engaging in a pattern of behavior that contradicts her claims. Based on what we're seeing, there's no basis for this complaint. So what happens now?" I asked, leaning back in my chair. "Officially? Nothing. Unofficially? She's pushing her luck. If she keeps this up, she could be facing legal consequences for filing false police reports." That was all I needed to hear. Vanessa had officially burned her last bridge. Not only had her attempts to extort me failed, but now she had law enforcement looking at her as a problem. And for someone like her, that was the beginning of the end. The collapse. Over the next few weeks, things unraveled for Vanessa at a rapid pace. She had no money, no credibility, and no allies left. Her attempts to appeal the court ruling had failed. Her last-ditch attempt to accuse me of harassment had backfired. She had nothing left to fight with. Then came the eviction notice. I heard about it through mutual acquaintances. Vanessa had defaulted on rent for months, living off whatever scraps she had left while refusing to get a real job. Her landlord had finally had enough and taken legal action. With nowhere to go, she had tried couch surfing with old friends, but even they weren't interested in housing a known con artist. Her reputation was radioactive. No one wanted to be associated with her. Employers wouldn't hire her. Even the few people who had once supported her had backed away, unwilling to risk getting dragged down with her. I should have felt something: pity, satisfaction, maybe even amusement. But the truth was, I just felt nothing. Vanessa had done this to herself. Every lie, every scam, every desperate scheme, it had all come back to bury her. The last time I heard anything about her, it was from a former mutual friend. "She's gone," they said. Vanessa packed up what little she had left and skipped town. No one knows where she went. I nodded, taking a sip of my coffee. Good. I didn't care where she went. She was no longer my problem. For the first time in years, I was finally free. I thought Vanessa was gone for good. Out of my life. Out of my mind. Nothing more than a cautionary tale I'd tell over a few drinks. But just when I had finally put her behind me, she found a way to crawl back into my world one last time. It started with a letter. Not a text, not an email, but an actual handwritten letter that showed up in my mailbox one morning. The sight of her familiar loopy handwriting sent a wave of irritation through me. I hesitated before opening it, debating whether I should just toss it in the trash. But curiosity won out. The letter was exactly what I expected. A desperate plea wrapped in self-pity and veiled threats. Vanessa claimed she was destitute, struggling to survive, abandoned by everyone who had ever cared about her. She blamed me for all of it, of course, in her version of events. I had orchestrated her downfall, painted her as a villain, and left her with nothing. And then came the kicker. She wanted money, just a little to get back on my feet. She had written, "I have nowhere else to turn." I laughed out loud. Vanessa had spent years trying to destroy me, and now she wanted my help? Instead of responding, I filed the letter away with all the other nonsense she had pulled. I figured that was the end of it, but Vanessa wasn't done yet. A few days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short, her voice shaking with desperation. "Daniel, please, just talk to me. I don't have anyone else." I blocked the number. Then came the social media messages, anonymous accounts sending me long-winded rants about how I had ruined her life. Then the rumors. People I barely spoke to anymore telling me Vanessa was telling anyone who would listen that I had left her pregnant and homeless. It was all predictable, pathetic, and most of all, exhausting. Then she made a mistake. One night, I was walking back to my apartment when I spotted a figure standing near the entrance. A woman, hood up, arms wrapped around herself. Even in the dim lighting, I knew. Vanessa. I stopped several feet away, keeping my distance. "What the hell are you doing here?" She looked up, her eyes hollow, cheeks sunken. She had lost weight. Her expensive makeup and designer clothes were gone. For the first time, she actually looked like what she had always pretended to be, a broken woman. I just want to talk," she murmured. I shook my head. "We have nothing to talk about, Vanessa. Please, Daniel. I have nothing left. I need help. Help." I let out a bitter laugh. "After everything you did, you're unbelievable." Her lip trembled. "I made mistakes." "Mistakes? You tried to ruin my life. You lied, cheated, stole, and now, because none of it worked, you think you can play the victim? No, Vanessa, I don't owe you a damn thing." Her face twisted, the act slipping for just a second, revealing the bitterness beneath. "You're heartless." I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. "No, I just finally learned not to play your game. Now get out of my sight." She stared at me for a long moment, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away into the night. That was the last time I ever saw her. A month later, I heard through mutual connections that she had left town for good. No one knew where she went, and no one cared. She had burned every bridge, exhausted every last favor. She was a ghost now, a cautionary tale, a fading memory. And me, for the first time in years,